1.
You're listening to the Fantasy Fling Podcast. Take a break from the season-long commitment and join us as we give you the newest and hottest DFS deals, preview the DFS main slate, and take the dreadful walk of shame. Here are your hosts, Brandon and Eric.
Welcome. Happy Friday, everyone.
Happy Friday.
It's Black Friday.
Black Friday.
It's Making a Milli. Our Week 12 Milli Maker special. Let's do the Week 12 Milli Maker preview. Of course, it's your GPP preview is what it is, large field GPP. So we're going to go ahead and give that to you. But before we do that, before we preview Week 12, we're going to look back at Week 11 on what won the Milli Maker. And it was kind of sick. It was, you get silly with the Milli. This was definitely a silly lineup. It might make you a little illy. As I talked about in the write-up, if you had too much food and you haven't seen this lineup, don't look at it. It's pretty ugly, but we're going to do that first for sure. Eric, once again, you did not win the Milli Maker.
Did not.
No, me neither.
Did not. That was not a good week.
Yeah.
I tinkered too much.
Yeah, you did too much tinkering.
Yep.
Yeah, you didn't even beat me out this week.
I
got back on top.
It won't happen for long.
Yeah, I got back on top, but that's all right. It's going to stay that way for a little bit. And we got no Paul this week. He is with his mom and his girlfriend. It's 2 nights in a row. They're out to dinner. He wishes he could be here. Trust me on this, but he can't be here. So what was your score in the Milli Maker last week, by the way, Eric?
Oh, not good.
Yeah.
It was 116.94. It was I played Dak and Gallup combined for 14 points in total. Damn near impossible to win out of that. So it was a bad lineup. I mean, I had Dalvin Cook and Mixon and Waddle. Those guys all tore it up. Nicole Hardman, who I keep having faith in, and he keeps letting me down. Did nothing. Dalton Schultz pulled through with an okay game. Montgomery let me down, and the Browns defense didn't. It did okay. They scored 8 points, but it wasn't. I had some bad plays with the Gallup Prescott stack and Hardman. No go.
Yeah, I mean, if you stacked that game, you had no chance. So winning the Milli Maker is all about stacking the right game. And sometimes that isn't even cut it, as we'll get into this with the Week 11 Milli Maker build. The guy who stacked the right game had the correct stack. He made a costly mistake, and it cost him the Millis. So we'll get into that. We're going to do things a little different this week. Because of Thanksgiving Day, we previewed the Thanksgiving slate on Wednesday. And I don't know how you did. I cashed yesterday in cash by like a half point, so it was pretty close. But speaking of cash, the Week 12 main slate, we're going to give you our lineups, our builds before we get into our Milli Maker builds. So we'll just be quick with that, but let's take a look back. So I was the top dog in our group. I scored 132 points, but I certainly I could have hit the cash line had I started Mixon over A.J. Brown. I went back and forth on it, and I even did on the podcast last week, but I ended up going with A.J. Brown, and that ended up costing me at least cashing in the Milli. Scored 132 points. Not much to be said about it. I had Tua, Waddle stack, Waddle smash, Tua did not. Based on salary, Dalvin Cook, we had mentioned he has really good games against Packers. So he had a 21-point game and a 48-point game last year. Well, Justin Jefferson had all the points in this one, so Dalvin Cook was not going to have that type of ceiling game. So he got 22 points, decent score, but not enough, specifically when you got Jonathan Taylor going ham. And then, Ingram, 16 points, Wilson. And then Davante Adams was the right play. So if you played Davante Adams, that was a good play. However, it was probably difficult to afford him and Jonathan Taylor, but you could have done it. You just had to really pay down at quarterback, which we are about to see in the Milli Maker winning lineup. So it was it was a Cam week in the Milli Maker. So we got Jackson 205, scored 230 points. So we did see the total score start to climb up from what it was. Last week it was like 213. It's just been down. I think the average this year is like 232 compared to like 243 last year. So it's been down, but it climbed up a little bit last week. As far as stacking, it was gross. So we had a Cam. The main stack was Cam, Tremble, and McLaurin. So it was a good bring back option. But yeah, Cam got 26 points and Tremble only got 5. The tight end he was stacked with. And then McLaurin was a great bring back option for 24 points. It was a total of 55 points, and they averaged about 18. So pretty ugly as far as your main stack goes. And then there was a DeAndre Swift and Detroit defense stack. That one averaged the same. So about 18 points between the two. Now, what was craziest about this lineup, dude, like all of 2020, all of 2021, the lowest we had seen and total roster percentage was 66%. This lineup was ridiculously low, starting with Tremble at 0.05%. Total roster percentage for this lineup was 28%. So we had Cam at 9, Jonathan Taylor. We mentioned it last week. We gave it to you. A stud at very low ownership, 3%, under 4%, and he ended up breaking the slate. Miles Sanders, less than 1%, but, you know, he was just kind of got an A on the group project without not doing a whole lot. Again, Justin Jefferson, same thing, right? Under 3%, and he crushed it. He had over 40 points. McLaurin, 1%, Elijah Moore, 4%. So Swift, 2%, Lions, 2%. It was just extremely low all around. As far as leverage in this lineup, we talk about it. Justin Jefferson was direct leverage off of Adams and Dillon in that Green Bay, Minnesota shootout. Jefferson was the highest scoring wide receiver on the slate, and he came in at under 3% ownership as opposed to Javonte Adams, who was 16% owned, and A.J. Dillon was 39% roster. So direct leverage. Swift, he was a lot of leverage on the field too, less than 3% ownership. He was RB3 on the slate behind Taylor and Mixon. Chalkier plays, Christian McCaffrey, Chubb, and Connor, they were all over 15%. Same thing with McLaurin. He was just outside the top 5 on the slate and outproduced chalkier plays, such as Tyreek Hill and Debo, 24% and 15% respectively. And then it's pretty straightforward. If you played Jonathan Taylor last week, you probably did very well in tournaments. You did very well in cash. You did very well everywhere. He was the top play on the slate. He produced almost 7x on his salary. He was less than 4% owned. He just crushed it. So he was the ultimate leverage play last week. And again, what we have seen every week in the Milli Maker this year is at least one player with over 6x on their salary. So this actually had 2. Is we had Elijah Moore, he was 4,900 and 6.65x, and then again Jonathan Taylor, 8,300, 6.79x. So what we did see with pricing this week was paying up for studs like Taylor, Jonathan Taylor, and DeAndre Swift and Jefferson and McLaurin, and then just punting other positions. You look at like Tremble, you look at Miles Sanders. Some of these guys were just punts, and even Elijah Moore was, but absolutely smashed. So when you have 2 ceiling players like Jefferson and Taylor, who combine for almost 100 points, that's really how you can pay up, have the stud smash, and then other guys are kind of carried across the finish line with them. That's pretty much it for the Milli Maker. I mean, there's really not a whole lot there except for like 2 to 3 guys just really smashed. And they carried Tremble, they carried Sanders, Lions D. That's how it goes.
Yeah, man, it was a huge, sometimes you get these weeks where just multiple players put up massive games, Taylor, Eckler. Yeah. Even Justin Herbert. Just some massive games. Justin Jefferson, just big games. There's a lot of that this week for sure.
No doubt about it, man. Well, anyways, looking ahead to week 12, Eric.
Mm-hmm.
We'll do a little.
As Reggie used to say.
Mm-hmm, that's right, baby.
315 Reggie Green, baby.
Do you want to do a little bit of a little cash preview? You got a cash lineup for me?
Yeah, I didn't build a lineup per se, but usually with the cash, I usually just like throw out players I like. I can build a lineup real quick, but for me, I started with cash is Cam Newton. He's still cheap, and I never know what kind of game he's going to have, but he runs usually enough to make him still worthwhile. I don't think he'll have another Milli Maker type game, but he'll probably do enough to get by, especially with his running. He'll probably get you at least a baseline of at least 30 yards on the ground, which is a good start. Maybe a touchdown if you're lucky. Justin Herbert, he's got a juicy matchup this week against the Broncos, and then Tom Brady. Got to go with TB12, baby. He's the guy is ageless and good, and it's hard not to play him or stack him like anytime he's there. Especially because he's only 7,600. That's not that bad. Against a team that is really good at the run and really bad at the pass. So it just kind of lines up well as far as quarterbacks go. Sorry I didn't build a lineup. I built more so just kind of like players we like. Usually what we do on Wednesdays and Wednesday to Fridays. But
that's all good.
Those are the quarterbacks I like for the cash lineups.
Yeah. Well,
Cam is probably going to be who I have the most of, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Well, I'll just run through it real quick. We're not going to go through every position. But as far as my cash build on Friday, I'm sure Sunday morning these things are probably going to fluctuate. But, I look at the chalkboard and over at dfsarmy.com. And like I said, it's worked for me. 10 out of 11 weeks this year I've cashed. And I did the same thing yesterday for the Turkey Day slate. And, I cashed then too. So, we're going on 11 out of 12. It's very good, and it's going to be a Sunday morning is when I really, we see those final roster percentage projections, and that's when I piece together my lineup. What I'm seeing right now, I'm going to do a combination of the chalk and also the good plays. So, obviously, Cam, 5,600, rushing ability. He's got a good floor, and at 5,600, that allows you to pay up for some other spots like Christian McCaffrey. I like him this week, 9,000. As far as running backs, what I'm seeing, he's kind of the chalk. He's above Jonathan Taylor right now because Jonathan Taylor's in a tougher matchup.
Last week it didn't matter.
Last week it didn't matter for sure. But
I'm just kidding.
But we'll see. You could play JT.
I don't expect him to do that again. I expect him to get around the 20-point range.
Yeah. AJ Dillon, if Aaron Jones is out, I like him. Brandon Cooks, Chris Godwin in that same Tampa Bay and Indy game. If we're talking about Jonathan Taylor, so little mini game stack here with Godwin and Pittman, and he would be my third receiver, Pittman, and then just total punt at tight end with Swaim. Tennessee, we got no AJ Brown. We know Henry's gone for the season. No Julio. I want to say Marcus Johnson's out too. I thought I saw that. Dude, they have nobody to throw to. So it's going to be really hard for him not to hit value. I feel bad for him,
man. I feel bad for Tannehill. Yeah. That's rough.
Yeah. And by the way, if you can afford, if there's value that opens up on the slate and you can afford to pay up for New England's defense, they're 3,900, but has there ever been like a better smash than this week? And then last, James Robinson, I got him at 6,200 and Texas D at 2,300. So that's where it sits as of now on Friday night. That's my cash build. But, of course, this can always change as I go to DFS Army and I'm going to check those projections on Sunday morning. Shout out to them. Use code FANTASYFLING for a 10% off a VIP subscription. Even if you just play cash games, if you just use their projections, you can win. 10 out of 11 weeks. It's so worth the membership. So, that said, let's look ahead to the Milli Maker, baby. The life-changing money. Let's bank it. It's week 12.
Week 12, man. Let's do it.
Yes, sir.
We'll hit the Vegas totals. I know we hit them on Wednesday. We'll hit them on today again. Mm-hmm. I have a feeling this will be the game that you're choosing. You got Tampa and Indy. at a 53.5-point projected total with 28 for Tampa. That's the team total. It looks like Tampa's a 3-point favorite in this one.
Yeah.
That's the highest projected total by 4 points. So I imagine a lot of people are going to have stacks and lineups on that. Second, you have Minnesota and San Francisco. San Francisco's the 3-point favorite. I don't think I might have to bet against that. I don't like that. 49.5-point projected total with San Francisco scoring 26 team points. I don't like that. I think Minnesota's got a better chance at that one. But you have the Chargers against the Broncos, your team. It's a 48-point projected total with Chargers being a 2.5-point favorite, projected for 25-point team total for them. And then we have the Rams against the Packers. To me, this is one of the most interesting games on the whole slate because this could just turn out to be a great game or it could be a dud because both defenses have been playing pretty good, especially the Packers D, surprisingly. So it's interesting to see how this might turn out if people avoid it just because of the matchups. But there's a 47-point projected total with the Rams projected for 24 points. And you have, surprisingly, Atlanta and Jacksonville. There's a 45.5-point total with Atlanta favored by 2. 24 points projected for Atlanta. I don't know what to think of that. Like, I don't think Jacksonville's defense is as bad as they're projected to be. But I think Atlanta's offense can be as bad as they're supposed to be. I know Jacksonville's offense struggles too. But man, that's an interesting matchup. It's weird to see. Obviously part of that reason is because 3 games were done on Thursday.
Yeah.
But you got Atlanta and Jacksonville on the top 5 of projected total. So I might have to take the under on that one.
It's hard for me because I like the Tampa-Indy game, but I could see the Minnesota and San Fran game being pretty good. I like Herbert stacks, brought back with some of the different Denver pass catchers. And then it's kind of the same thing I like some Stafford too, for sure this week. And then I like and the thing is sometimes you just want to take pieces of games, right? Like you don't want to stack the quarterback. You're typically not going to have a bunch of Trevor Lawrence lineups, but maybe you like Shenault, maybe you like Robinson, you like Shenault with Agnew out. So there's a lot of different angles, and I'm certainly going this way in the Milli, but as far as other tournaments, I'll be going a lot of different ways for sure. But why don't we have you roll since I go first, and then I'll go with my lineup.
Okay, so you went with the Tampa Bay Indy.
Yeah.
So let's see what I got here. Well, I just rolled a 1. Can't take that one. I just rolled a 6, which doesn't exist. How does this shit happen every time? I rolled a 2.
Okay.
Minnesota
and
and San Francisco. So my first roll was a 1 and then a 6. I feel like that happens every time. Hey, you know what? I actually kind of like that. I'm pretty happy with that.
It's a good game to stack. Yeah.
I had a couple ideas in my head of how I wanted to go with it, so this should be a pretty quick build for me, I think.
Yeah. All right, bro. Well, let me go with my lineup then. So I like this game, the Bucks versus Indy. So I went over to DFS Army, of course, and I run the optimizer, and I'm just trying to find some optimal lineups that I like. And now here's what I got initially. So I got Brady, I got Barkley, Robinson, Shenault, Brandon Cooks, Michael Pittman, Dallas Goedert, Chris Godwin, and Texans D. So I'm seeing like 107% total ownership as of right now. So I'm trying to get that a little lower. One thing I wanted to do so was I wanted a little bit of a better stack with Brady. So I wanted a Brady double stack, and I'm going to bring it back with Pittman. So here's what I went with. I went with Tom Brady, Mike Evans, Rob Gronkowski, and Michael Pittman, bringing it back with Pittman. So with the Bucks having a really good run D, I feel like the passes are going to get, funneled to Michael Pittman as opposed to Jonathan Taylor getting a bunch of carries and running wild over the Bucks. I don't really see that happening. Of course, as JT, he can do his thing. He could, run wild like he did last week in a tough matchup against Buffalo, but I'm not going to be a victim to recency bias. So like Brady, in a double sack with Evans and Gronk brought back with Pittman. So that's going to be my main stack. Now, I also, as far as running backs go, Barkley is severely underpriced this week. If he plays, of course. If he doesn't play, I'm finding someone else. I'm rebuilding this entirely. But if he plays, he's 6,300. They just fired their coach. I just don't see how they don't emphasize running the ball against Philly. It's a good matchup for them. They got the 25th ranked run D. So I like Barkley. He has that type of ceiling, We don't know exactly what we're going to get from him coming off an injury, but that's why I like him. He's not that high projected as far as ownership goes right now. He's under 10%, so I will take that with his ceiling and with his price being underpriced. Sounds great to me. I mentioned it earlier, James Robinson going against Atlanta, 29th ranked run D. I will take that. He's 6,200. It's a great matchup for him. Brandon Cooks, he's the only guy that you really ever target in Houston's offense. So Tyrod Taylor to Cooks. Hopefully that connection will be going solid this week against the Jets. He is, one of my value plays. And then in that same game with James Robinson, you're kind of just hoping that Jacksonville puts up quite a few points against Atlanta. And Shenault, the target's got to go somewhere, right? Agnew's gone for the season.
I really like that, man. Damn it. Sorry.
Yeah, Chenault's only 44 hundo. So he's going to be another value play so that I can sneak, guys like Evans and Barkley and Robinson and Brady all in there. So he's actually going to be chalkier than normal. I'm seeing 7%, which is really crazy considering, how little he's done this year. But I do like Shenault in there. And then Giants D. It's not really... They're going against Philly. It's not a great matchup, but it's correlated with Barkley. So you got the running back and the defense. I like that. A lot of correlation in this lineup. Barkley, the defense. You got Brady, Gronk, Evans bringing it back with Pittman. Some James Robinson and Shenault. This is a lineup that I feel is going to win the Milli this week. So this is what I'm going to roll with.
I hope you win it, man. I think James Robinson is probably the most underrated player this week. Like no one's even talking about him. He's super low projected ownership. He looks like in a great spot. He's coming off getting healthier from the injury. I like Robinson a lot.
For sure, man. You got your lineup?
I got it, man. I just finished it like 10 seconds ago.
Perfect.
I was tinkering a little bit, but I don't want to tinker this time. I
was going slow to give you time.
No, you're good. Last time I tinkered and I ended up doing really bad. This time, I was like, all right, I'm good. I like it. I think it's around 75 to 85% ownership based on what I'm seeing, but
okay.
I guess we'll find out the real numbers.
Well, and what we found out last week, right, is you can never go too low. Like, don't even worry about it. Like, if you can win it with 28%, you can never have too low ownership. You can have too high, but not too low.
Yeah, man. So I got the Minnesota and San Francisco game. Mm-hmm. That turns out to be something pretty good. But I went with the Cousins and Justin Jefferson stack. He seems to be pretty low ownership again this week, Justin Jefferson. Are you seeing the same thing?
Yeah.
What the hell, man? Like, this guy is so good. He may be the best receiver in the league, and Niners don't have a shutdown corner. They don't have a Ramsey. Going with that stack with those guys. So I went, and then I followed that up with Brandon Ayuk. I know he's a little bit higher owned, but
that's a good one.
They're using Debo a lot as a running back. I think he had one target last week, but like a bunch of runs. So they're changing his. I don't know. It seems like they're trying to make Ayuk the main receiver and Debo like the gadget Patterson play. So anyway, I got Cousins and Jefferson followed up with Ayuk. For my running backs, I have Joe Mixon.
Nice. He's been in the Milli like three or four times this year.
He's been good, man. As long as he stays healthy, it's a divisional matchup, but he's so good. Even if he doesn't have like good running games, he has good receiving totals. And then I also picked someone who's pretty low owned, but Javonte Williams. Oftentimes you'll see a rookie coming out of the bye. I don't think it'll happen this to this team. But you'll see the rookie come out of the bye week, and they'll just take over the backfield. Gordon has played well enough, I think, to maintain his role. But I feel like this is when Williams will shine. Oftentimes you see right after that bye week, they just take off. Maybe they'll give him a little bit more of like a set of 50-50. Maybe they'll do 60-40 or 65-35. Kind of what I'm banking on. Plus, he's very talented. That helps.
No doubt.
My other receivers, Elijah Moore against Houston. Again, really low owned, still super cheap, and he's produced like 3 weeks in a row of high totals. So I don't understand why he's so under owned. I don't understand, but I'm on Elijah Moore, another, again, rookie that's second half producing.
Yeah.
CJ Uzama against Cincinnati. Against Pittsburgh. He's the type of guy to give you 3 points, or he can put up 2 touchdowns and 120 yards. So he's kind of a dart throw, of course. And then I have Michael Pittman because I feel the same reason you mentioned. I like Michael Pittman this week because the Bucs are tough to run on, but even if they can run on the Bucs, if they fall behind, they're going to have to throw the ball. Brady's probably going to put up points, so I'm sure that Jonathan Taylor will get his piece. But if they fall behind, they can't allow Taylor to do everything. So I like Michael Pittman. Yeah. And then for the defense, I chose the Dolphins. I'm betting against Cam. I know we talked about him in cash lineups, but Cam is getting older. We've seen him throw medicine balls at times. The 2 prior weeks, like the Dolphins had like 17 and 18 points. So they're a decent defense at times. I'm just betting against Cam on this one.
Nice.
So to recap it, I got Cousins as my quarterback, Javonte Williams and Mixon. I have Justin Jefferson, Ayuk, Elijah Moore, and Pittman. And I have CJ Uzama and the Dolphins.
Nice. All right, man. Well, let's get into stacks, studs, and sleepers.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it out, man. I've been yapping. I'll just finish up the yapping and throw it over to you.
All right, for sure. Well, I'm going to keep it brief. I mean, there's certainly, several other stacks that I'm kind of eyeing. I might throw a couple lineups out there, but a handful with each quarterback. But the main ones, obviously, the one I just gave you in my Milli Maker build, Brady and Evans and Gronk. I like that. Of course, if Evans plays, I guess he'd had some back issues this week. He's expected to play, but you just never know. But yeah, if you can get a guy at lower ownership like Evans versus Godwin, I like that. But you can also play Godwin too. Of course, you can bring it back with Pittman, and you can never count JT out, as we saw last week. So, if you're gonna have some exposure to stacking in that game, you have to have Jonathan Taylor's bring back in some builds. That other game that I do like is the Green Bay and Los Angeles. Now, I don't want really any part of Javonte this week because I'm seeing him. He's going to be one of the chalkier wide receivers, and he's going against Ramsey. So if he's low owned, yeah, I'll take the chance that he can still have a big day. But if he's going to be chalk, that just seems like an easy fade for me. On the other side of that, there is Cooper Kupp. So if you want to pay all the way up for Cooper Kupp, I believe he's 96 hundo. Yeah, he's expensive, but you could do, you could do it a couple different ways. You could do a double stack, Stafford, Kupp, Van Jefferson, OBJ. Maybe it's time to get him involved. A lot of different ways you can go with this. Bringing it back, I would not bring it back with Adams, especially if you're stacking with Kupp. You're just not going to have the money. But you name it. MVS, we saw him go off last week. He was in the Milli Maker, I think, second place build. Lazard, Cobb, Dillon, those guys are all in play for me as ring backs. Just, get a little bit of exposure to each of those if you're really stacking that game. And then the third one would be Cousins. You mentioned it, Eric. Jefferson. So actually the guy who finished second in the Milli Maker last week, he had Cousins, Jefferson, and a Thielen stack, and I think he brought it back with MVS. Nice. So yeah, you could do the same thing really this week. You can also we have seen Cousins stacked with Cook and or Jefferson and Thielen. That works too, and bring it back with Debo or Ayuk or Kittle. So really, any of those three. Gotta kind of hit it from every angle.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. I like those stacks. I kind of have overlapping, as you said. Of course, I had the Minnesota game, but I had the Cousins Jefferson as a stack set up. Like you said, you could follow that up with Cousins Jefferson Ayuk type setup, or even Debo. He's getting more expensive, but he seems to produce every week. Brady,
yeah, well, because he runs and he catches. He does all the things.
They're making him
it's
a gadget.
Focal point of the offense.
Yeah, man. He's like a much better version of Patterson, Cordell Patterson. Yeah. Brady and I had Brady and Godwin listed, but Brady and Evans, like you said, Brady and Gronk, I like all those guys as well. Stafford and Cup.
Yeah.
One guy that I had listed that I didn't see high ownership of was sometimes you have a player has a bad game and then they're forgotten about or they're just ranked lower. But Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. We've seen what Chase can do. Any given a week, the guy can just go off.
Yeah.
And if he goes off, Burrow did too. Great quarterback, so I like that stack as well between those guys. Or even like a Burrow Mixon, because he does like to hit those screens to him a lot.
For sure. Yeah, I like it as well. What about your studs?
Yeah, man.
Got your studs?
I do. I have some of the guys we already mentioned. I also had a Jalen Hurts as studs because of just how much he runs. The guy's he's going to run for, it seems like 60 yards a game at least. Probably not that high, but he runs a lot. I also have Justin Herbert listed as a stud this week.
Yeah.
I like him against the Broncos. Of course, Jonathan Taylor and McCaffrey. I mean, those guys are. I was trying to build a lineup with both of them in there just to see how it looked, and it just doesn't work out too well. It's just too expensive.
Nah.
Even like in a cash type setup, but I just couldn't find a way to make it work. But I do like them both. I think Naji's in a good spot this week. Naji Harris, as long as he's healthy.
Yeah. Now here's the thing, though. You could put a Barkley in there because you're kind of getting that upside, right? But at like 3,000 less. Yeah.
I mean, I think people forget about Barkley. If he was on a great path to get help, like a great trajectory of like how he was improving until he rolled his ankle again. But I love Barkley's a beast. I mean, people forget how agile he is for a 230-pound man. He moves like a smaller guy.
Yeah.
And then I also have Jefferson, Jefferson, Chase, Godwin, Evans. I like all those guys this week as well. Kittle's in a great matchup as well. Kyle Pitts is pretty high owned. He's in a good spot too. I like all those guys right there.
I'm with you. Christian McCaffrey for me is good. If Cam doesn't vulture touchdowns from him, he can smash pretty easily. He was on his way last week for sure. He looked really good. So he's a guy that I'm definitely interested in GPPs. Also, Eckler's not really getting talked about, but they're going against Denver. That's one of the higher projected games. And, of course, I expect the Chargers to win that game. And Eckler coming off a great week. Sure, there'll be some recency bias there. But, he's still a stud. So if you can get different in other ways and still play a guy like Eckler at a little bit of salary relief from like a Jonathan Taylor to Christian McCaffrey, sure. Also do like Naji Harris this week. So his salary is definitely a little bit higher. But it is a great matchup. And we know his arm is toast, so he likes to check down a lot. Of course, I mentioned Dalvin Cook. I like him in that game, and I like him in stacks or just even as one-offs. Like, he's the perfect type of guy to play. I already mentioned Saquon Barkley. He's definitely going to be, in all my tournament builds for sure. As far as wide receivers, you mentioned it, Justin Jefferson coming in really low. Cooper Kupp, Deebo Samuel. I agree on Jamar Chase. Can't really be forgetting about him either. And then... of course, I am playing a Godwin, but Evans coming in at lower ownership. I like what he can bring to the table, just getting leverage off the field if that game does go the way you expect it to go.
Yep.
That's pretty much it for wide receivers. And then, let's just move this along to sleepers, Eric.
Let's do it. Yeah, man. So the first guy I had as a sleeper is one we talked about earlier, James Robinson. I feel like he's vastly underrated this week. An incredible matchup against the Falcons. God, they're so bad.
Yeah.
Falcons are so bad. I mean, both the Patriots running backs had good games against them. I mean, they're just a bad team. I don't know what's going on with them right now. I mean, of course, losing Patterson, losing Ridley doesn't help. Another guy I have listed is Jaylee Waddle. He had a pretty good week last week, and people just forget about him. He's a short, kind of. They're using him. They're using him now in ways. His touchdown he scored last week wasn't even a pass. It was a run. It was a run near the end zone. So they're trying to get the ball in his hands in different ways. So Waddle, both of the Broncos running backs, Gordon and Williams, because the best way to beat the Chargers is to run against them.
Keep Herbert off the field.
Yep, they have. That's the best way to beat the Chargers, and they're both studs. They're both good players. Another guy that's kind of a deep shot, man. But like, who else do the Titans have? Hilliard, Dontrell Hilliard.
Okay.
He's been around the league for years, but with McNichols out again, them letting go of Adrian Peterson. AJ Brown is gone. He had a pretty good amount of yards last week, and maybe it's a fluke, maybe it isn't, but he's pretty cheap. Might just be a dart throw, but they signed him. They used him last week. His role that he plays, which is the McNichols role, kind of like the scat back, third down. McNichols is out again. Hilliard is in. I don't know. They don't have a whole lot of weapons, so he may just be utilized in different ways. And then, last but not least, Tyrod Taylor. He's got a great matchup against the Jets, and he's really cheap, and he's pretty low owned. I guess it's not that low, but he's low enough. Looking at Tyrod Taylor. I think he has a pretty good matchup. The Jets just don't seem to be able to stop most people. I mean, it's that's kind of what I have for the sleepers.
Yeah, so that same game, my sleeper, we got Michael Carter out this week. We got Ty Johnson at 4,300. Yeah, coming in at 8% ownership as of right now.
That seems like Coleman too. Just throwing out there.
Yeah. I mean, he just seems like a guy that you'd want to play at, 4,300. Then you could pay up for, these expensive running backs if you could fit him in there. And he smashes. Also, no one's talking about this guy. Did he die? No, he's still alive. Daryl Henderson. 58 hundo. That projects to be a high-scoring game. He's coming in 9% ownership, less than 9. So I like him too in that same game for sure. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Naji Harris. So he's actually, I'm seeing like 7% ownership. I can definitely get on board with that. Thielen, again, whether you're stacking or you're just playing him as a one-off, 8% ownership. If that game does go off, that can certainly propel your team. I do like him. Ayuk is the only, you mentioned him earlier. You have him in your build. That's a great value play. He's 5,300. He's 4% owned. Like, if he has a smash game, like that is big leverage on the field. So those are the majority of my guys. And then last, I would say Nico Collins. I'm seeing him like 2% ownership right now.
Who the fuck is that guy?
Who the fuck is this guy? 3,200. Just a super cheap punt. Almost stone minimum. So he's a number 2 in the Texans offense going against the Jets. I mean, it's the Jets. So
it's the Jets. One last guy to throw in there. He's too high owned, I think, right now or maybe he's not. But 5,900 AJ Dillon, only mentioned because it looks like Aaron Jones may play. I feel like if they play, he's going to be severely limited. He just came off an MCL sprain. Why would they throw him back in there?
Yeah.
If Dillon's ownership happens to drop because of Aaron Jones' return, I like him a lot as well.
I like it, man, for sure. Well, that is going to be a wrap for Week 12, Making a Milli, your Milli Maker special. Appreciate y'all for joining us. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share. Definitely subscribe so you never miss an episode. And good luck, and we will see you Week 13.
Damn, going by so quick.
Lucky number 13.
All right, man. Well, good show. Out. Take